In the movie Dumbo, black people are featured being happy with their horrible work conditions under white groups.
Kim's Convenience expresses the typical Asian accent of a first-generation family living in America.
And Peter Pan, for instance, shows how Native Americans are labeled as savages and brutes due to their killer instincts and unmannered behavior.
The influx of digital information in the media, whether it be films or social media or the news, have enabled and exacerbated the marginalization of minorities. There is no doubt that the media has aided immensely in the prejudice against racialized groups. But first, what is media?
Media refers to both news and entertainment, such as television, ads, music, radio, magazines, social media apps, books, and video games. It has influenced all of us massively, whether it be sharing stories with friends through social media, learning about political information during important candidate elections, or through popular songs performed by artists such as Taylor Swift, Ed Sheeran, or Drake. In fact, the current state of society suggests that mass media is so deeply embedded into our everyday lives that most people would not be able to survive without it.
We will begin with analyzing why it is that people are influenced so much by the media, then provide illustrations of how the media has impacted racialized groups in the past and also the present. Then, this video will explain how exactly the media perpetuates prejudice and intolerance, uncover the long-lasting harms, and feature how we can improve the situation to create a better future.
Given the importance of media in billions of people's lives, it is clear that it possesses the immense power to govern how we think. In fact, mass media and pop culture constantly spew images and narratives of the world around us. Because humans are pattern-seeking creatures, we look for and interpret these images every single day. Though these images may be inaccurate and misrepresenting the real world, nonetheless, people live their lives as if these interpretations are correct. And over time, these visions of the world dictate the way we think and act towards ourselves, others, and greater society.
Let's take a look at a past scenario in which the media was used to fabricate racial narratives. You may be familiar with the model minority stereotype for Asians, that they are smart, wealthy, hardworking, submissive, and achieve a higher socioeconomic status than the rest of the population. But where did this stereotype come from? After World War II, the US government released hundreds of thousands of formerly incarcerated Japanese people who were told to integrate into white society. But after decades of anti-Asian propaganda, white people were skeptical that Japanese Americans were traitors, but they had a trick up their sleeves: the media.
The government used the media to transform public perception, painting Japanese Americans as reliant, diligent, and respectful of authority. Media outlets constantly spewed stories about their success and their academic and economic achievements, and people started to change their thinking towards not only the Japanese, but many other Asian populations in America. Because remember, people that frequently consume media innately believe that the real world is the same as the media world. However, once the media solidified this myth, they started using it to discredit black civil rights movements that challenged white politicians. They presented fabricated stories of Asian American success in order to paint black minorities who stood up to the government and demanded for their rights as inferior. The pervasiveness of this narrative created tension between Asian Americans and African Americans, undermining decades of past progress or reconciliation together.
In addition to using the media to create stereotypes, the media can also perpetuate them. If we look at more recent instances, Donald Trump, a controversial right-wing political influencer and president of the US in 2017, is just one of many who changes the public perception of certain racial groups. In some of his famous statements that were able to spread through the media,
they're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists.
The normalization of stereotypes and even straight-up disinformation have embedded these messages into the brains of media consumers. The media is a tool used to spread misinformation and in many cases have even empowered far-right supporters like Richard Spencer. In his 2017 speech, he mentions,
"Hail Trump! Hail our people! Hail victory!"
which clearly shows the media's influence over him. Let's take a closer look at how the media alters the public perception of certain racial groups.
Through recent developments that stem from long-existing root problems within the media, we've seen numerous proliferation of prejudice and misconceptions against racialized groups. Specifically, this impacts the overall societal tolerance and increases misunderstanding of culture and groups with our society. For instance, in the Christmas story, Asians are perceived as generally having difficulty differentiating the L and R sounds in English when singing Deck the Halls. It is conclusive and evident how these clips have influenced Western and white perception of Asian people. Consequently, widespread media like this have contributed to the decrease in tolerance for other cultures within the world today. This has unfortunately led to many conflicts, both verbal and violent, and caused great societal harm. In addition, the proliferation of many misconceptions that spark conflicts between groups also arises as a result of the media. This is observed in Kim's convenience store with the implementation of the gay discount in episode 1.
If I'm a homo pivot, then why do I give a gay discount?
The proliferation of clips that reiterate common misconceptions that spark of one group being non-tolerant or not knowing of another will undoubtedly spread misconceptions about the racialized group and undermine efforts of unity and understanding between different groups of people. Hence, it is observed and conclusive of the harms that media has brought upon racialized groups through the proliferation of misunderstandings and decreasing tolerance.
But why is all of this detrimental? The possible associated and implied harms of racialized groups in our society in the present and future are of unimaginable proportions. Media proliferation has extremely contributed to the increase in socioeconomic inequality and decrease in job opportunities for racialized groups in our society through its spread of harmful characterizations of racialized groups. General media contributions are seen in the novel Feed when Violet describes that only 73% of Americans have access to the feeds. The necessity of feed in their economic structure means that the media has barred 27% of people's economic opportunities and occupations with its monopolistic benefit to the rich. Furthermore, this harm disproportionately affects racialized groups when we see the widespread characterization of these groups in the media being negative. This is best displayed in episode 1 of the series Trickster, when the indigenous teen is characterized as a drug dealer, academically and mentally struggling, and having unfortunate family problems. This harmful depiction of indigenous people affects their image within employers in their economic world and undermines their financial success. Consequently, this has led to executives and hiring employers to view racialized groups negatively, showing the astronomical potential harm media has and will bring to them. But that's not all. These harmful racial stereotypes perpetuated by the media only become true when minority groups hear them. In 1995, several experiments showed that black college students performed worse on standardized tests compared to white students when they were confronted with racial stereotypes, as they subconsciously believed the harmful messages. But when those stereotypes weren't emphasized, black students did just as well and even better than their white classmates.
Furthermore, these harmful depictions of certain racial groups cause children part of these groups to lose self-esteem. If they see people that look like them on TV that are framed as less desirable, their mental health is deeply affected. In fact, Native Americans or indigenous people are affected by this the most. They have the highest rate of depression amongst youth, experience substance abuse, and even suicide. But how about the model minority stereotype of Asians we talked about earlier? Is this harmful?
Yes. The truth is that many Asian students are struggling, but teachers are less likely to notice them. And outside the classroom, social programs catering to Asian communities are frequently overlooked or cut because people believe Asians need less support than the other disadvantaged groups. Hence, it is conclusive that media has and will inflict in the future and emerging present harms of unimaginable proportions against racialized groups.
The option to completely eradicate racism and all of its consequences in our world no longer exists. So what can we do to minimize the effects of the marginalization of racial groups through the media? Firstly, many companies have already been making efforts to diversify actors in ads and TV shows in order to attract a greater pool of audience, especially millennials. Millennials are the generation with the most spending power and also the most racially diverse group, and so progress is being made. But we need to push for more of it in all types of media. Next, individuals need to recognize harmful stereotypes in the media and call them out. This is an important tool to combating implicit and explicit prejudices.
And this all starts with media literacy from a young age, which consequently happens to be what we're doing right now. It is only when we analyze past and present examples can we clearly see that the media has aided immensely in the prejudice against racialized groups. And then can we educate society about these harmful depictions? And then can we ensure long-lasting change for all marginalized racial groups?